Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler.
And I am your host, Zach.
Indeed. We are here to play one of my most anticipated games in a very long time.
Yep.
Or rather, here to talk about. We have already played.
Yes.
And for you as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's been
absolutely.
Been a long time
I think the only games I'm looking forward to more than this one are Silksong and Prime
Ragnarok.
4. I was anticipating this more than Ragnarok.
Yeah, definitely me too.
Yeah. It was pretty much just Silksong. And then out of immense curiosity, Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah,
Immense
I have no hope for that game. Which will only leave me room to be surprised.
What do you mean no hope? If it's literally just the same game,
yeah, but
I'm not going to be disappointed.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game. It will be a good game.
Yeah.
But it won't, just like
I'm not
Uncharted
expecting
2 to 3. 3 does a lot of things better than 2, but 2 was such a step up. We had not played anything like that. Yeah. Same with Breath of the Wild. It's not BioShock 2, perfect example.
Yeah.
It has
2,
such a legacy. BioShock 1, such a legacy. And 2 falls in the shadow of its legacy rather than what it's doing. I would not be
surprised if they made some pretty major changes.
That's what I want. Even if it takes the form of a bit of a different game, I would actually prefer that than just the same game again.
It will not beat Breath of the Wild 1 for me.
Of course not.
I know. And so going in, I know that the best I can get out of it is an incredible game.
Yeah. And it will be
that. And the worst is going to be a good game. Like, come on, it's the team that made Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, what I mean is, when I say I don't have any hope for it, I don't have any... I don't know how to put it. Like, I know it's going to be that. I don't think it's going to be a bad game. It's going to be more Breath of the Wild. That will be fun. But this looked new. I don't anticipate that being new.
No.
Silksong looks like, well, the first one was something new for me. It is my favorite game. It took over my life for a few months and just became the best thing I'd ever played. And 2 looks like it is going to be more, of course, but also doing so much more. And I'm looking forward to that. This, who knows? They've showed so little of this game. Cool. There will be places in the sky. I do anticipate very poor performance, because this is obviously a bigger game than Breath of the Wild. They're going to try to, like any good sequel does, up its production values. But the Switch was outdated when it came out. It's been out for 5 years now.
Outdated as a home console.
Outdated in terms of its performance. I'm
talking, though, like, as a handheld, it's still
Sure. Yeah. Of course. Obviously. But as a home console... when you're trying
to play The Witcher 3 handheld... You're going to get The Witcher 3 handheld.
Yeah, I still want to play The Witcher 3 so bad on Switch.
We have to play
on Switch. We
have to play it.
Yes, of course. I have not played it. It's so fun. It's very high on my list.
I wonder if there's a way to just play the Blood and Wine DLC.
I don't think so, because it's all scaled to be endgame, right?
Yeah, it is, but I'm wondering if there's like a mod or something that we could do. Or maybe there's a feature where you
because that's what I'm most interested in, is the Blood and Wine DLC.
Yeah, the Blood and Wine DLC is the best of that game. It's not the best. Like, there are things in the base game I like more than the Blood and Wine DLC, but everything that DLC is showcases what the best of The Witcher 3 has to offer.
That's good. I hope when we play it, I'll be able to get to it.
I think
if there's
not
a mod, but I'm going to play it on PS5, so there won't be a mod.
No, but yeah, it'd have to be a feature, and there won't be. Honestly, that's going to be, I think, the best way to play that game when we schedule it is to, like, kind of have chapter markers, and we'll be playing it as we play other games.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and then kind of build up to finishing it. Because, I mean, base game took me like 50 hours, I think. And then with the DLCs, I ended up putting like 75.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, because that is actually a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about first.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I'm going to start with this beer right here. Again, it's just me drinking. Lent ends sometime next month, and Zach will be able to join me again. But I have here from Martin House Brewing. If you follow us on Instagram, I drink a lot of Martin House. They put out more, relatively. It's easier to put out beer than it is a novel. They put out...
Unless you're Brandon Sanderson.
Relatively as much beer as dang it, The Shining and Pet Cemetery.
Stephen King.
Stephen King. There we go. Had a brain fart.
That guy can.
Yeah,
can output
like
some
it's
novels.
insane.
There's the
amount
stand sitting on my shelf right
stand,
there, all like
yes.
900 pages of it.
They have something coming out, and this is not much of an exaggeration. It seems like every day they have a new beer coming out, and I pick up pretty much anything I see by them. Nothing. There have been a few things that are awesome. Nothing is particularly amazing. I have not tried any bad beer from them, though I have not had their pickle beer yet. I will probably not.
It is pickle beer.
That's crazy.
And so
we have here, because my fridge is filled with sours, unfortunately. Sours are good, okay? Sours are great, but I bought so many, and then I drank everything else I had, and now I only have sours, and you, by default, only have sours.
Yeah, because
you have an entire shelf of sours.
That's my
in
wife.
Your fridge, indeed.
Because I buy wine and she buys beer. So.
Yeah. But we have a sour IPA with pomegranates. This is the Panama Red.
Panama Red.
From Martin House Brewing.
When I go out and I'm down there excavating, I like to always keep a nice can of Panama Red right next to me. A good dog, a good American-made tool, and Panama Red.
Wow. This is an interesting beer. Definitely falling more in line with a sour than an IPA. I'm not getting much hops there, but the sour is not like what we tried last week with the Double Dapper Devil. There's a weight to this that takes away from some of the punchiness of a sour.
The tart.
Yeah, and I'm definitely getting the pomegranates here. This is a very well-balanced beer. Surprising. Huzzah indeed. 6% on that one. Pretty standard. Though that double was just 12. I had one last night.
Good.
The last can there. But I mentioned what you said, sort of playing it in the background as we play other things and talking about it as it comes up. Sort of like we did with the Hitman series last year. I'm going to be doing that throughout this year with monster catchers. This year is going to be capped on either end with a brand new Pokemon game. And I'm a big fan of the Pokemon series. I complain about it endlessly because it's got a lot of BS.
Because you love it so much.
Because I love it so much. I want it to be so much more.
If you were being really honest with yourself, would a Pokemon game be in your top 10 favorite games?
Not 10, probably 20.
Yeah, if I was honest with myself, Kingdom Hearts 2 would be in my top 20.
Yeah. And, I don't
if
put...
I were honest with myself.
If we were honest, we'd put... Smash on the top 10.
Smash would probably be number 2 or 3.
It sort of sits outside of that. It's obviously one of the favorite things we've ever played.
For me, it's just like Kingdom Hearts. It's just this default thing in my soul that just rests there, and it's like, oh yeah, I love Kingdom Hearts more than my dog. That's not true. I love Tesla, but like I love it so much.
Yeah, and I think what you said is right. It's sort of default. I think Smash, for Smash fans, it's default. It does not need to be on your top 10. Doesn't need to take up a slot. It's already understood. Smash is your favorite.
You can
Tetris
look
for
at
me.
The amount of hours on my Switch cataloged in Smash Ultimate. The amount of time I played my GameCube.
Yeah.
Just Melee all the time.
And then, but you also add all of your friends' playtimes because you're just playing at whoever's house. Yeah,
I mean thousands of hours.
Correct.
Thousands of hours into those games.
Correct. We last year during our D&D campaign, we would take a break and play for 20 minutes and then end and play for an hour and a half. And so we probably racked up 100 hours last year.
Oh yeah,
alone, and it just kept giving. Now it's finished, which is a good thing. But yeah, it's a default. I think Lord of the Rings is also a bit of a default. I recently made a top 25.
If you're talking about movies, right?
Yeah.
Books, I specify it on my books.
Okay.
I do specify it. Anyone who knows me would be a default, but when you're talking to like lit nerds like me, a lot of them don't put like any genre novels that high. And I have 2 genre novels in my top 5, so...
Nothing wrong with that, man.
No, they are honestly probably better than most novels.
Yeah. I mean, I don't read enough to know, but Lord of the Rings just seems...
It's so good. I was rereading parts of
transcendent
Return
almost.
of the Kings, part of Return of the King, just the last weekend was like tearing up. Like, I wish I could write like this. Like, it's just so good.
Well, so we played Arceus just 2 episodes ago. Had a lot to say about that. There was a lot good, plenty still wrong. Holdovers from the rest of the games, and just I'm gonna say it. I'm not gonna be nice about it. The competence, I think, of the team at Game Freak. And I decided to do a Nuzlocke run of the Diamond and Pearl remakes. I played Shining Pearl. I unfortunately got a TPK because the game doesn't really equip you to defeat the Steel Gym, the sixth, I believe. Yeah, the sixth gym. There is one fire type Pokemon in the game up to that point, besides the starter. And if you don't choose the starter, you're out of luck, because Steel only has a couple weaknesses. And
Didn't you have Torterra?
I did.
Couldn't you Earthquake?
I did Earthquake, but he eventually died.
Got it.
Actually, he may not have had Earthquake yet, but he
Had some sort of ground move.
maybe he did, but he died. Steelix just killed him immediately.
Steelix is so good.
Steelix is so good. And, Steelix will survive the one-hit KO. Most of the Pokemon in that gym do with Sturdy. But I didn't actually get a TPK. I did win with my last Pokemon. But the rest of my party had died. And
What was your last Pokemon? Who's the hero?
a baby Pokemon. One that I was in the process of training, but I had one hit left. And so I used Detect, which goes first. And the Pokemon missed, and then I got to use a move that went first and finished with that final hit. But it was what is it called? Metatyke.
Oh, yeah.
That evolves into Metacham, and did finally evolve after getting all of that
Is that
experience.
the one that evolves into Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, or Tyrogue or whatever?
No. So that's from Gen 3, the Psychic Fighting type. The little blue
yeah.
meditating Pokemon.
Metachan is really good when you get it evolved.
Yeah, actually, so surprisingly good. I played with a lot of Pokemon that I typically would not. And I'm still playing. I'm gonna get some of the legendaries in the game, but I'm not doing the Nuzlocke anymore. I got to the 6th gym. I had a Bronzong, Machamp, Gengar, Giraffig, which is very surprising. Giraffig can learn so many moves. I've given it a dark move, plenty of psychic moves, lightning moves. I currently have fairy moves on it. It's pretty versatile, and is probably one of my better Pokemon. So Giraffig, Torterra, Metacham, Crobat, and Toxicroak, which is becoming one of my favorite Gen 4s, but their nicknames respectively being, because you have to do a nickname for a Nuzlocke, Ziamalfor for Bronzong, Micah, Gustav, Rico, Terrence, because of course your Torterra has to be called Terrence.
Of course.
Wendell, Zell, and Gina. These games are pretty faithful remakes of Gen 4. From what I know, I stopped playing Gen 3 back in the day and came back with Sun and Moon. They're pretty faithful remakes, certainly in their visual style as well. That's a first for the series to bring that style into the 3D. But unlike those older games, they are still incredibly easy. Even
It's that group leveling.
yeah, that's probably a big part of it.
Huge part.
But the super effective moves are also just insane, which I did not find to be the case in Legends. While I thought Legends was still very easy, it was one of the harder Pokemon games in a very long time. I was a couple levels above some of the Pokemon using super effective moves that did not kill them, which felt great. It did very significant damage, but they'd still come out with a quarter of their health. Whereas Sword and Shield, I had Grookey, like level 13 or something. He had not evolved yet, so soon before he evolved, and fought a level 28 Onix out in the wild and killed it with 2 shots. That's insane. It's just way too easy. And I hope they balance that. But Pokemon's always going to have a special place in my heart, though the genre as a whole, the monster catching genre, monster tamers, I also say that I enjoy. I've played Digimon, played Pokemon, and
SMT.
oh yeah, Shin Megami Tensei, which was my favorite part of that. Not so much the case in Persona, because they had that dating sim stuff, which was just so
And
good.
Persona doesn't count as much, I think. Because you have a party, but like your party is mostly your static party members, and you're the only one
you're
swapping.
right. You're right.
Like it's much more a monster catching game in the baseline.
You're very
In the main
right.
line, rather.
And that was a lot of fun, and I like the shakeups there. So I've got a list of stuff that I'm going to be
beat that
playing.
game.
You
I
go.
just remembered that.
You go, Zach.
That was fun. I had a good time playing that.
I had a good time. What I did play, I didn't
How did
finish
I
it.
not talk about it on Game of the Year? Like I just forgot about it, but it's so. I had a blast. Put
It
hours into that game.
was a lot of fun. I
want to
think
play
this
3 so badly.
Yeah,
3 and
I
4.
do have an SMT game on the list. I don't know which one. Probably going to be 4 or Strange Journey.
4 seems like the one that we'd like the most.
4 is the one I'm most interested in. Always have been before I was interested in anything
make an
else.
episode of that when I'm down.
Maybe. I don't know. There's so many other things we want to play.
I know, but I would love to play.
Okay, it'll be further down the list. I'm gonna play them once a month. So we'll revisit Monster Catchers once a month. Pokemon has become pretty stagnant, aside from the recent entry, and has just doubled down on the things that I think are pretty problematic for the game. Plenty of quality of life stuff brought through the generations, but overall, just being way too easy. And that's pretty much the biggest thing. Oh, and then of course the performance of the games, but that's a different conversation that I've already had. But Monster Catchers, I'm going to start next month with Monster Crown. It is a classic Pokemon game, really. If you look at the cover, it just screams nostalgia. It is boasting art very similar to the first 2 generations of Pokemon. It has sprites like the first 2 generations, but with more color, like you'd see in Gen 3, but sprite design from the old Game Boy. So it's a huge callback. I'm excited to go see what those systems are all about. And some more on the list. I don't know when I'm going to play any of them, but Digimon World DS, that'll probably come pretty early. I really want to play that. Ni no Kuni, Yokai Watch.
Ni no Kuni's super fun.
Yeah, I know. It's high on the list as well. And this is not in any particular order. Monster Hunter Stories. I don't know if this one's a monster catcher, but I think it is. Dragon Ball Fusion, in which I believe you're collecting different Dragon Ball Z characters, which are not official characters from the show. Neither is your main character. They're just generic Dragon Ball characters, but you fuse together with them to make new Dragon Ball Z characters. So I think that could be classified as a monster catcher.
What's interesting is pretty much all of these are handheld.
Yes. There is
Pokemon is kind of
only
done
one
that
on
to
here.
Monster catcher games.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best place for them. There's only one on here that is not handheld. And then another Pokemon game or two. Alpha Sapphire will be the first one, but I also want to try Black and White 2 and Let's Go. I might just dip into those and talk about them all at once. World of Final Fantasy, that's a pretty bizarre one. Temtem, which is straight up trying to sort of fix all of the problems that hardcore Pokemon fans have. And we've got Dragon Quest Monster Joker. And finally, Monster Tale, which is a weird DS game in which you're actively raising your Pokemon or, your monsters on the bottom screen while you fight with them on the top screen. Sort of, I have not played it yet, but like The World Ends With You, where you're actively using both screens.
Oh, how have we not played that yet? Tyler.
I know. It's on a list for us, a very particular list, which hopefully we'll get to. But it's up there.
That is so high up there for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, enough about that. I I'm going to be jumping into that pretty hard with Monster Crown next month, and hope you guys enjoy my Monster Catcher talk, which will again cap the year with Pokemon Scarlet, and we're doing an episode on that. We got it.
I know.
We got it. Okay.
I know.
It's going to happen.
It
won't happen any other year.
Amanda's going to make me buy it anyway.
Yeah,
so
it's not going to happen any other year. It's just that this year's going to be capped with them, and I've decided to go all in. You know, it's not going to happen again.
I will be reading books.
Cool.
That is all.
That's fun. So
no, I definitely am jealous. Let me know when you do SMT4. Hopefully, it'll be a time where
I don't know if it'll be SMT4. I kind of really want to play Strange Journey as well.
I can't believe I haven't bought that yet.
Yeah. It's you can still get it. I think it's like $60 on Amazon.
Yeah, it's
I think it went down just a little bit.
Brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have most of the 3DS ones. I'm missing that and Soul Hackers.
Dude, you got to get them as soon as you can. Soul Hacker seems a little too expensive. You know, there's a sequel coming out on PS5.
What?
Soul Hackers 2 is coming out this year.
It is not.
Yes, it looks.
God bless Atlas.
Weird. It's a new art style for them. It's sort of like Tales style anime game, which is odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw that on a list yesterday and thought that was very weird. Anyway, we should move on from this and talk about what everybody is here to hear about, and that is Elden Ring.
Oh yeah, Elden Ring. Yes, Elden Ring. So I just pull this over here. Shots fired. Sorry guys, we're gonna cut this out. Oh. Why is this? Is it this part? Why is this? Can you?
Yeah.
I've been shoveling.
It's this.
I know I can't get it though. I've been shoveling all day. My wrist is super weak. Like a wimp.
Oh, that's the small one. Here, let's
You got it?
No, I want to.
I shovel.
And now turn. Don't mess with this. Turn that. That should be good. Yeah. Hold up.
How do I sound? Oh, I don't sound.
Did you pause it?
No.
Oh.
How do I sound? How do I sound? Okay. We're good.
Okay, hold up.
So let's get started on kind of where you and I both come from in the spectrum of FromSoftware's recent exploits. I didn't play anything I still haven't played anything pre Demon Souls. I've been interested in a couple things. The Armored Core series and things like that.
Chrome Hounds.
Yes, a lot of cool
I played.
things.
Let's see. Something Tower, I think.
I have
on PlayStation 2.
Evergrace over there.
Yeah, Evergrace looks like a very boring game, and not even that interesting.
I think it looks great.
I
watched a video on it.
Visually, it looks interesting. It looks like an incredibly boring game. I have played. Did I play Evergrace? I feel like I played it.
Well, regardless, I have completed every single
Eternal Ring.
FromSoftware game Demon Souls on. All of them.
That's all they've been doing.
Yeah, they keep iterating, and I mean, just the growth. From Demon Souls to Dark Souls is huge growth. From Dark Souls 2 to Dark Souls to Bloodborne is crazy. They've really honed in what makes their games fun, and brought that encouraged that aggression in the player. Shields engender passivity, as the game itself tells you, and then they kind of merged that together back into Dark Souls 3, and Sekiro was just the greatest. They stripped out all the RPG elements and just made this a pure skill curve, where you're growing as a skilled player across the whole time. It's so much less about memorizing patterns and things. It's really unprecedented what they did. There's no action game like it at all. And now they've moved somewhere very different. Very different.
Indeed. I have played very few FromSoft games outside of the Soulsborne games, including Sekiro. I tried Demon Souls. I think I got to the third area and just couldn't anymore. Not that I couldn't play anymore. I just, like it was too hard for me. I just couldn't bring myself to put up with it anymore.
And grinding for healing. Ugh. I wish that the remake let you choose if you wanted Estus or healing leaves. Like, it's rough, man. It's rough.
It is very rough. I've played Dark Souls 1 probably 5 or 6 times, getting a little further each. Listen, I'm really bad at these games. I've never finished any of them. I'm really bad. I love them. I'm really bad, though. The furthest I've gotten is a little beyond the... what's the
Sen's
big
Fortress,
castle?
right?
Sen's Fortress. Beyond there's some...
it's the Inner Londo after that, the big...
Yeah, and then there's there's a big demon that has like fire in its belly. I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's down in the lava area, the witch area.
No, this was in a castle. That I believe is past Sen's Fortress. Anyway, I got past Sen's Fortress. That's the furthest I've gotten.
I mean, you got past the hump of the game there.
Yeah, but it was still pretty humpy for me.
Yeah, it's hard.
Dark Souls 2, I thought was complete BS by the end of it.
Liar.
Listen, I actually have the fondest memories of Dark Souls 2. That was the first one I really went hard in. And I got it on launch. And the first game I played on my PC, my brand new PC. And I got up to the end. You need a door... with the or you need the 4 Elder Souls to get through a door, or 1,000,000 souls through the course of the game. Not currently on you, but had to have collected 1,000,000 souls. And the game sort of encourages you to use the Elder Souls to get cool weapons. So I did. I used one of them to get a cool weapon, and I didn't know at the time that you could rest at a like reignite the bonfire and refight.
Kindle.
Yeah, I didn't know that, and I didn't read about that. The game said you need, or rather, whatever Dark Souls item website.
Flextra Life.
Whatever the website is that you go to for Dark Souls info. Anyway, they said to get through the door you need one of those 2 things. They did not mention there, which is the only place I was looking, that you could do that. I didn't know you could refight them. So I stopped. I thought that was complete BS, that you needed 1,000,000 souls to get through the door if you had just happened to use one of these. So I stopped there. Unfortunately, I probably would have finished that game. And then Dark Souls 3 is pretty difficult for me.
A lot of people I've found, for me, that your hardest Dark Souls is always your first one, but a lot of people have told me that they've found Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro to be the hardest. And Dark Souls 3 I can understand. I think Sekiro is hard to gauge the raw difficulty of, because it really is fully dependent on your skill and how good you are at those kinds of games,
That seems like a pretty difficult game.
Yeah. So, I mean,
you are good at them, but it's a pretty objectively difficult game.
Sure,
like
but
Returnal.
It's hard to compare it to the others in terms of difficulty because it plays out. Like what it's testing is very different.
I would say it's more difficult because in those other games, even
Sure.
if because there are ways to mitigate the difficulty.
I agree.
There is no way to mitigate it.
I would agree. I just think it's hard to. What I'm saying though is I think it's harder to compare because of that, because they are pretty different games at their core. But I could see why people would struggle with it the most.
I definitely did.
I know this is sacrilege. I find Bloodborne the easiest. Like just because I love the beginning of that game, the first 4 bosses, all the way through Vicar Amelia, basically. I have played the beginning of that game so many times that I have gotten through only dying like twice in that whole section. I just play it so much.
When I say when. I'm being very hopeful. If we get a, remaster, that's wouldn't really be a remaster, but an upgrade on PS5.
Oh, I'd love
We're
that.
gonna have to we're gonna have to play it immediately
I know it's
because I've
still...
not played it. I got through the first boss. I think maybe I hadn't even got the chance to level up yet. So there's a large bridge that you come to pretty early on. You can go left and drop down into this sort of like sewer area, or take a right on the bridge. I was already beating my head against a wall trying to get that far, and dropped down into the wrong area that's meant for much later in the game. And I was like, no, screw this. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'd like to play. Now that I know you're supposed to go right on the bridge, but also I played that before Dark Souls 3, and obviously came out well before it.
Wasn't it just 1 year before it or something crazy like that? Like Bloodborne was 2015, and because Dark Souls 3 was 2016.
Wasn't Bloodborne 14?
It could have been.
But also the development time would have been pretty easily cut because the two teams were split to make 2 and Bloodborne.
Yeah.
And then were no longer split. So, they had a lot more time. But that's my history. I've never beaten any of them. I've played all of them. I love the series. Dark Souls 1 having a very special place. But if you listen to the beginning of this cast, for the same reason as I mentioned with Uncharted 2, BioShock, it just did something so new at the time. Even much more than, in my opinion, much more than Demon Souls, is that impeccable level design. And, the individual areas of Demon Souls may be better. Zach would probably make that argument. I've not played enough of it to know. But the entire world, the way it's connected, is incredible. I'll never forget one of the best moments I've ever had in a video game is coming. You know it if you've played Dark Souls. Going through the chapel, down the elevator, and coming back out to the first bonfire. And everything just clicking. It's so good. It won't be done again on to that level because it was so new at the time.
Yeah.
And that's why it holds a special place in my heart. I could more easily go back and play 3. That's probably my favorite one to play. But aside from that one moment, my fondest memories are from 2, which is all over the place.
Yeah, I love 2. I love 2.
And Sekiro, I'd love to go back and play. I just couldn't at the time.
It's hard.
It's so hard.
It's hard. And
dude, I played for 3 or 4 hours just getting past the first the first giant up there, which is broken and complete garbage, and then restarted the game, and it was 20 minutes. But anyway, I did appreciate that it's all skill based. It's very interesting.
A lot of this has led to their newest game, Elden Ring.
Elden Ring.
What do you think about? What was their first impressions? You boot the game up, you're playing it. What hit you?
It felt like Dark Souls immediately.
Immediately, I had the same impact. I was like, this feels like Dark Souls 4. Immediately, yes. I was just playing it.
I mean, it looked like Dark Souls 4. That was not going to be a question for me, but
I watched nothing.
Yeah, so. Zach is allergic to spoilers. He will kill himself if he hears something that is even remotely
to avoid hearing. Yeah, just I will end everything to avoid hearing a spoiler.
Yeah,
and spoilers is what does that boss look like? I like to go in raw and wriggling, as Colin would say.
I don't really get you people. Of course, knowing huge story beats spoiler alert, that Ned Stark dies, I get that. And I'm even not particularly averse to spoilers on that level. But not even knowing that one of the starters is going to be a grass Pokemon, that's a spoiler, is insanity. The level to which people avoid even knowing what the font of the title is going to be is just stupid to me.
I like the seeing it the first time when I'm actually experiencing the game instead of watching a video.
Like, those were extreme examples, but something like knowing what the
boss looks like.
classes are going to be, the different classes you start with.
Like, knowing that information doesn't bother me. It's the visual design and the world, and like, a lot of times they drop some really cool moments in trailers that I would have rather experienced for the first time myself.
Sure. That's more true in movies, though. God.
Oh,
Movie trailers are the worst.
I mean, basically the end of the movie. Like, up till the very end of the movie, they're showing you scenes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's so apparent, like in Marvel movies when they take something out. Like the Spider-Man trailer that only showed, what's his name? Tom Holland's Spider-Man jumping at the 3 villains. But the 3 villains are obviously going in different directions. They cut the other 2 Spider-Men out of the trailer.
So silly.
It's, they try so little to hide the stuff. But anyway, that's our history with Dark Souls and my first impressions. Just being like, it's Dark Souls again. I'm happy to be here. And then you open that door. And it's no Breath of the Wild. It's no coming over that little bitty hill just as you come out of the dungeon, where you're being kept as Link, and you see all of Hyrule there. It's not on that level, but just the light shining through as you're pulling that door up, coming out from the training area, and seeing all the golden trees there, and like it's a new area, the title of the area coming up. It just felt so good. And just to go anywhere. It was the first thing I did, which, we were talking about it. I think it's Metroid that sort of trained me to do this. I turned around. I didn't even look at what else was out there. I turned around and went behind the little building that you come out of, and dropped down on a beach and fought some barnacle krakens, which are called land octopus. No, that's wrong.
Barnacle krakens.
They should be called barnacle krakens. Come on, guys.
Yeah, it's just bleeds barnacle kraken.
Yeah. Fought those guys.
You can just tell if you were to lick that, it would taste like the side of a ship that's been stuck in the ocean for 3 years.
Yeah, and also your tongue would just be eviscerated by sharp barnacles.
Yeah.
I was eviscerated by 2
barnacles.
Yes. No, I was able to get away from those and then found my way into a cave and was eviscerated by 2 weird dog creatures.
Demi-humans.
Yeah, the
demi-human queen is really gross looking.
Oh,
She's
really?
super lanky and has a dog face. It's grody.
Well,
yucky, icky, plucky.
The beach was really nice, and seeing the island just beyond, I thought I could swim. I thought they were gonna let me do that, so I jumped in. You can't swim.
I did the same exact thing. Same exact thing.
They do very obviously show you the edge of the beach. Like the water comes up and you can walk into the water a little bit, but they show you this is the edge. Don't walk any further. I was an idiot. But seeing that out there and be like, wow, I can't wait till I can go there finally. Just the exploration was so great, and kept that up for a while. But it felt like it was going to be a magical place to be, and I was very excited to get started. It's kind of
I had similar first impressions. That after the Dark Souls, similarities wore off. I mean, I noticed myself being led in certain directions on a very Breath of the Wild style exploration. I know there are some articles I've read that don't like the comparisons to Breath of the Wild, but it's too apparent how they lead you through this open world that they're very much inspired by Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, and
the landmarks, the things that draw your eye, the kind of ways they reward you when you get to certain places, the tall creepy statues that stand out against the horizon that when you walk up to them they'll send a little spirit wave down to point to where a little hidden dungeon is.
Yeah, or just when you light a bonfire, the smoke sort of goes in a direction.
Yeah, and it's very obvious that there are multiple ways to get. Once you enter a place, you realize, oh, I could have gone this way or that way, and even the dungeons are designed that way.
Or when you come out of the first castle, well, first doesn't mean much. I believe, in these
The
kind of
intended
games.
first castle.
The Stormvale
Stormvale.
Castle. I was inches away from the door on the side of the wall. That's what I exited the castle through. And I don't know if that was intended. I forget the path you go through after you kill the boss, but you come out of some like thief's door into the wall of the castle, tucked behind some bushes. I was inches away from there because there's a bonfire right there. That was sort of my base for operations for a little while as I was exploring further out a little bit from that. I had no idea, and I was exploring the side of the wall too. I just missed that. It feels really nice to, excuse me, this beer's getting to me. Discover little things like that and be able to approach things in a bunch of different directions, a bunch of different ways. But some of that I think starts to wear a little bit when you get into later areas. The first area is such a great first impression.
Yeah. And I'd argue the first 3 areas are very strong in that regard. But as you progress through the game, the Breath of the Wild style discovery definitely takes a back seat.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this is a natural evolution for Dark Souls because Dark Souls already has these interconnected areas. The levels are large in Dark Souls with multiple ways through them. It's really just kind of been expanded. It's the signposting that's really Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into dungeons, though, and you can kind of naturally just go one way or the other and explore, that you can really feel Dark Souls coming through. The capital is really just an open world Dark Souls dungeon. There's so many different ways and areas and paths and this and that. It's huge.
So this is Elden Ring in general is an open world game with Dark Souls in it. But I did not make it to the capital, unfortunately. I say unfortunately. I enjoyed all of my time with it. I'm not going to go back for a long time because we've got other games to play, but I enjoyed everything. I put 45 hours into it, and just a ton of exploration. But I didn't make it there. It sounds like
at least
60. Yeah, yeah. You definitely had some time on me with. I was still playing. What was the last game? Metal Gear Solid 2 for way too long. But it sounds like everything you've said about the capital is, instead of Elden Ring being an open world game that happens to have Dark Souls, that is a Dark Souls game that happens to be open world.
Yeah, it's definitely that's the case. And it's a natural next step for the way they design these larger dungeons in the previous games. What it is not a natural next step from is Sekiro. There is 0 Sekiro in this game. This is very much an evolution of Dark Souls 3 and what 3 was doing. They've kind of brought back shields. Shields are much more useful. They have some efficacy there, and there are some new mechanics around that where you can kind of counter without having to do a full parry.
Was stance breaking in Dark Souls 3?
Oh, yeah. Stance breaking has been around since Dark Souls. Oh, you're talking about where they go down and you hit them. No, not like that. They have backstabs, obviously, and parries, but not like stance breaking in that sense, like it's implemented here in Elden Ring. At least none that I'm aware of in Dark Souls 3. I didn't do a lot of PvP though, so don't ask me.
Was that a little bit taken from Sekiro? Like the way stance breaking works here? I didn't play enough. It's been a while since I played Sekiro. Not really,
because the Sekiro stance breaking is very much based on your defense. Is what dictates that in a lot of ways. This is very much just kind of a stance meter building in a way. I guess you could say the idea of stance came from Sekiro, but honestly, Sekiro's been ditched. And I like that because I hold Sekiro in such high regard, and I can only imagine how difficult it was to balance a game like that, where a player who knows what they're doing, like I replayed the game on New Game Plus, I beat it in no time. I crushed every boss, everything in my way, because there's no RPG elements. I just had mastered the combat.
What does New Game Plus offer in a game like that?
So there are some weapon arts that take a long time to build up toward, with the skill currency, and it gives you the ability to just have a character that can do all of those. I do think each time you do a New Game Plus 2, the enemy health the game gets harder.
Okay.
Like, the game does get harder, but you're not necessarily more powerful. But even with that, I crushed that game, like, the second time through. I just wanted the other ending.
Okay. I didn't even know there were other endings.
There's
I'm
3.
sure I will want to end everything when I get to the stupid ape.
He's my
I
favorite
say
boss.
stupid ape.
I think he's
he,
one of the 3 greatest bosses in video game history.
Yeah,
think
I know.
he's
I say
incredible.
stupid ape. He is loved by many. I'm not disparaging that boss fight. I will just probably have a very hard time with it.
It's so well balanced, too.
Did you see that YouTube video? Someone took the snake and stretched it out
Ew!
to show how long it actually is.
That's disgusting.
It's very, very huge.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
It could basically be wrapped around the whole game world if you were to put the game world together.
Ew. I hate it.
That snake's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I like the whole, like, theme around death and immortality and all that stuff. I think it works really well. Anyway, we're not talking about Sekiro.
We are not.
Unfortunately. Love that game. That's a top 5er for me, ladies and gentlemen. That's one of Zach's all-timers. So, what this game does not take from is Sekiro. It's definitely an evolution of the RPG Dark Souls. And in fact, it doubles down on that. Because now, not only are there very few required bosses for newer players, but you can spend so much time exploring and over-leveling if you're really stuck. If you're really stuck, you can spend so much time exploring, finding new things, finding new weapons and armor. Come back to that boss.
No. You can explore and find things. They won't be weapons and armor, though.
I found a lot of weapons. I don't know what was wrong with yours.
Yeah, no, I had enough weapons. Nothing that was interesting. They were, basic axes and things like that. I think in total, I had 5 or 6 special weapons, which is, enough. But 45 hours in.
Yeah, that's
come on.
And
no armor. I had one armor set. Finally, I got last night on my last play session. One armor set.
Yeah, I didn't find much armor until like after the first 3 major areas of the game. I don't know if I was not exploring enough but armor sets just were everywhere after that. But all that to say, like, you'll find gear, you'll be able to upgrade, you'll find smithing stones to upgrade your gear, and it's going to. It's interesting because it's going to let players who are newer to the series not have to learn against something so difficult. You can go and really practice against something lower. A lot of the bosses are what's the word I'm looking for? Are built for co-op. I'm trying to say something else. They are designed around co-op. There's a word I'm looking for. They're designed around co-op in a lot of ways, which is a little unfortunate in terms of that they're kind of meant to be beaten by having their backs turned to you. I think that's a little lame, but it's definitely balanced that way. I didn't summon for anything except gank bosses. That's how I like to play the game. So it's doable. It's doable. It's not impossible, but it's definitely balanced. That's what I'm looking for. It's definitely balanced for co-op play. The bosses are. And some of them fight like Sekiro bosses where halfway through a combo, they'll switch up what they're going to do next, or they'll stop in the middle of that combo when it's supposed to end with what they're supposed to be open and ready.
Yeah, and then you roll right into their stop, which leaves you open for whatever another combo they're about to do.
And the combos are long from some of these bosses.
And the dodge timing is crazy for some of these things.
Yeah.
Like the one of the harder ones to judge for basic enemies is the miners that use the crystal spears to blast crystal energy at the rocks. So they'll run at you with that spear over their head for 4 minutes
and then
before they finally stab down with an AoE, and you're rolling away, and you're attack me already!
Yeah,
do it! Do the thing!
There's so many.
I would rather take damage than continue rolling.
So many moves that are just the boss holding the swing a little longer and then it comes down,
It's very hard. It takes me by surprise all the time.
It's definitely a pattern memorization game. Definitely a pattern memorization game for the bosses. I would argue that the bosses are extremely weak in this game. I've fought maybe 5 that have stood out as really well designed. really interesting and engaging boss fights. Lots of repeats, lots of, gank fights, lots of, just kind of almost mini bosses in a lot of ways that are substitutes for real bosses that they'll just,
Well, how can they be substitutes when this is significantly larger than any other Dark Souls game? You have to. That's not. It's not an option for everything to be Ornstein and Smo.
No, but
all the time.
And what I would get at is don't have them really. Then, like for me,
then don't make Elden Ring, is what you're saying.
No, I mean I don't think you need them. The strength of the individual enemies of this game and how well designed they are, like the barnacle kraken and the dragons and the random lizard, like the salamander fire lizards, and very difficult, strong, powerful enemies. They don't have to be a boss room every time. Like you have, if you're gonna do repeat enemies like that, you have really strong things. Really strong designs, both from combat and visual. They look really good.
A lot of great visual design.
You don't need to make that boss room every time. You don't need the boss there. Have the big boss at the end. It loses the magic and makes me just kind of go, when I enter a boss room, I go, don't bother.
Yeah, but you would say this exact same thing the other way around. If you entered a final encounter room and there were just 5 barnacle krakens,
well, they have the final
2
encounters. Again, you don't even need to wall it off with mist. Like there are ways to make the player have to face something.
Yeah, but when you just go into a general dungeon, are you expecting a cutscene boss? Like it's
at the end, yeah, like Godric. Again, the Elden Lord served that purpose very well. I would be fine with fewer bosses. I would be fine with fewer bosses. I think that the game, because of what it is, loses some magic, and it feels like they're just doing it because that's what people are expecting. And I don't want that. I think the game would stand out and be stronger. Even if there are fewer bosses, when you find one, the difficulty of these bosses is high. Like, by the time you find them, you're probably under-leveled. Even when you come back, if you're trying to solo these bosses, they're going to stomp you into the ground. Fighting Godric was tough. Fighting Margit.
So when you say they're
tough.
weak, the design is weak.
The design is weak, correct. Yeah, the design is weak. But fighting Godric at the end of that, if I didn't have any boss fights, and there weren't actually, now that I think about it, were there any boss fights along the way to Godric? No, there's one on the way to the spell lady in Liurnia, the Ray Lucaria Academy.
On the way to Godric, so between
Margit and
Godric.
Because Margit's a special case. He's supposed to be the first boss to kind of force you to explore and
No, I don't think there was.
Yeah, and so and that's my favorite area in the game. It's really strong. They didn't need to throw that stuff. They had a couple really hard nights. That one grafted enemy there, guarding some good loot.
Yeah.
That works just fine, and I'm more engaged that way. Having to fight this repeating fox wolf enemy that shoots magic lasers at you in this small room with a bunch of things to get stuck on, that I've already seen this boss before, and it's required to fight to get further on into this area, is just like, I was just bored. I wasn't having fun. And it's a fine enemy, but as a boss fight, it's just weak. So again, not having them, I think, is stronger. Rely more on your laurels, not on your laurels, that's wrong. Trust yourself more. You're good at designing levels and worlds. It is challenging enough already. You don't have to throw in a boss just to appease people who want more bosses. Look what happened last time. You get the Dark Souls 2 pantheon of bosses, Bunch of weak bosses in there.
That's why I could get so far.
Yeah, again, weak in design. And I don't know. That's one of my major complaints. I know that was a little bit of a rant, but that was just one of my major complaints. Because when you do stumble across a really strong boss, you feel like it would have almost been bolstered if you didn't have to fight something else along the way.
I suppose. I guess I only saw one repeat boss.
I saw a lot.
You got much further in the game than I did. I just explored a lot. And if I couldn't get through a boss the first few times, I'd summon somebody. And even as soon as I walked into some dungeons, I would summon people just to
Yeah.
go through. I have fun with the multiplayer. You think it's the worst thing in the world, and
That's
we'll
not
never.
true at all.
I know. I'm just joking.
It's not how I like to
but
play
you
the
don't
games.
engage with it at all.
Yeah,
Though.
I don't like. That's not how I like to play these games.
Yeah, I think it's a key component to what makes Dark Souls Dark Souls.
It's part of what makes it so replayable for a lot of people.
I had a lot of fun going through with, dude, and then you can get an item later on. Going through with other people is what I meant to say. It's like a crown that you put on that just makes you an item in the room.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
I didn't get to use it. I had it and I like put it on for fun, but I didn't. I didn't use it during
for
with an invader.
Definitely meant for invasion.
And then the trick mirrors are pretty interesting. Yeah, that stuff's fun to me. And just resting at a bonfire, summoning two people, and immediately being invaded by a dude who runs into the room that just respawned all its enemies. I'll have to get the clip, but it was an insane moment with like 5 enemies, the 3 of us and the invader, and all the enemies immediately killed us because the invader knew how to manipulate that room. And it was very funny. Like, so I died first, and then during my death animation, both of the other 2 people died.
Incredible.
It was, it's silly fun. And I like that. So sometimes I would just go into a dungeon. And when I say dungeon, I mean the things that are scattered around the world. You go underground.
Yeah, that feel like a single Dark Souls area in a previous Dark Souls game. Like,
not even those. I mean the like repeated dungeon. I don't mean the castles.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about
around the place.
Dungeon.
I mean the tombs that you go into.
Sure.
And you've got to go to the end of it, pull a lever, the door at the beginning opens up. It's pretty repeated throughout those. That's what I mean. Like, I don't care if there's a stupid repeated boss in that.
Sure, that doesn't bother me as much either.
Just makes sense. There's 150 of those around the map. Well, I'm making that number up, but like any other open world
just
game,
have a big bad enemy.
That's one of the repeated things that are in any open game.
Yeah, sure, I get that. I don't have any issues with that.
But so that's what I thought you meant. But I did see one repeated boss in one of the what is it, fort or castle? Let's see, the southeast of the first area. What's that big castle where everyone has gone crazy and the Princess Castle Morn? There's a boss at the end of that where you get the grafted blade.
Oh, love that sword. I used it for most of the game.
That boss is repeated in the fort in Caelid.
You fight him there. You fight him in the fort in Caelid. You fight him in an area.
That's the one boss that I have seen repeated, but just the once.
I've seen him 7 times or 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not in silly underground dungeons?
No, but one of them was a silly underground dungeon. That one was a little different because he had like this light bringer sword that he would shoot rays with. There's the one in Caelid, that one in the south there. There's one just randomly, like 2 randomly placed as enemies in one area, and then another placed as an enemy in another area. So 6, I guess, that I can think of off the top of my head. But fought him a lot.
Okay, I can see that.
Fought him a lot.
I can see that.
And it is a much bigger, longer game. You can't have the quality of enemies that they've designed, without a significantly more larger amount of time to develop the game. I get it. I understand the limitations. One thing they do conquer, maddeningly to me, is the issue with open world games and level design. So many open world games, when you get to kind of an area that is more concentrated, just has crap level design because you just didn't have time. It's just these repeated outposts. Think the Far Cry outposts.
Oh yeah, Ubisoft games.
Like just that kind of stuff. Horizon is guilty of that. Horizon has these areas that are just really repeated and mediocre. And consistently, Elden Ring has incredible level design everywhere. If it's not great, it's very good. I've been impressed pretty consistently by how well they've managed to keep their level design up to snuff, even in this large open world game. So yeah, I was definitely impressed by that. Do you think? So, are there any other kind of things that stand out? I know I've talked. I don't want to keep talking negatively about this game because I do love it. I think it's a great game. I just. Are there any other kind of issues you kind of want to air out? I do want to talk more about the praise.
Yeah, I think This game is for a bunch of different kinds of players. You talked about being surprised, outside of the podcast, being surprised at the level of praise this is getting, the number of tens it's getting.
Yeah, and
all around.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, I never want to sound like, you will know when I am trying to be an asshole when I say that this is meant for the general audience. I'm not trying to disparage anybody. There are just some games, like Outer Wilds. That game requires a level of literacy and engagement with the medium that is not for
some other
everybody.
mediums too.
That game is not
a lot of the
for
player.
everybody. And Dark Souls in general is not for everybody. It has grown significantly with its audience over the years.
But my wife wants to play Elden Ring.
Yeah, and go watch the girlfriend reviews video. It is about that exact same thing.
This is bringing people into Souls.
Yeah.
It is their answer to, you want an easy mode? Fine. And it's because they're not going to do an easy mode. They found a way more interesting and innovative way to bring these players in. The way you explore and how that leads to you leveling, how you can summon, all the new tools that you have that can be used to mitigate the difficulty of boss fights or larger enemy encounters. You have so much at your disposal. And again, nothing is truly required. You need 2 Lord rings, I don't know what you call them. You need to defeat 2 of the 5 main lords to progress into the capital. And you need to beat the 4th. You need to beat one of the lords in the castle, and then you proceed to the end game. Like, you don't even if you really hate fighting the stupid magic laser lady. If you really hate fighting her, you don't have to. You don't have to. Like, there's so many things that just let you say, no, you don't have to do that.
And I think for those people, the people that aren't going to do that, the new players, the people like me who have put a ton of time into this and have only fought one of the demigods.
Yeah.
I did get through. I got through.
Lowly tarnished, Darton fit even to graft.
What a character!
He's so good. He's still my favorite.
I like
boss.
Margit more because Margit is. I like the idea that Godric has just been consumed by his by this obsession,
and you can tell he's just before he's this sickly little guy descended from this noble hero.
But Margit is a much more tame version of that, and I think is much cooler. And also, the boss fight, I don't think is as bonkers.
I had more trouble with Margit.
Really?
I had more trouble with Margit. Soloing Godric is my favorite moment from Elden Ring. Not because I soloed it. Like, I'm just, like, it's because it's the only boss that I felt like I mastered that fight. By the time I beat it, I think I had to heal twice. Like, I found that, and the time before I died wasting all my, but when I got him, I had his number, and you just feel it. And he's got that great middle section where he grafts the dragon to himself.
That's pretty
You're just
cool.
like, this is a Dark Souls boss. There's one later where he yanks the boss.
Oh, it's a giant snake in a fire pit.
Yeah.
That is like, swinging out at you like the giant snake in Sekiro, and then you beat his first form, and the snake sort of curls back, the head does, and there's a human face sort of grafted into its sort of stomach, the underside of the snake, and that's the actual character.
And then the snake head becomes kind of like his floppy hair.
Yeah.
Like, it's really gross.
And he reaches
And he has this long, skinny, gross human arm.
Yeah, he reaches into the throat of the snake.
Like a good way in.
Yeah, and pulls out this disgusting sword.
Covered in, like, viscera.
Yeah.
It's just
very
awesome.
awesome.
Like, what a Dark Souls moment.
Yeah, Dark Souls is very good at that.
But yeah, I'll never, like, there's a couple bosses that, I just died at so many times that you just remember exactly what they say. I will never forget. Lowly tarnished.
Yeah.
Just great.
Yeah, very, very good. But for the new players they are bringing in, I think they really failed to offer one very key thing about Dark Souls. And Bloodborne definitely drove this home. People called it Fashionborn for a while. 45 hours in, it was not until my play session last night, halfway through, I played for like 6 hours last night. Halfway through that, I finally put on another armor set, because the one armor set, which was not even complete, that I did have, was just from one of the basic knights that walk around with a torch. It's useless. And sure, some stats may have been better in that piece of armor, but I'm going to have the complete armor that is my samurai armor. It just looks awesome. But yeah, it wasn't until way later that I got stuff. You have to beat the big bosses to get, for a long while, to get anything interesting.
Yeah. And it took, again, for me, I think, well over 30 hours and I was going to multiple new places and I didn't find any new armor.
Yeah.
That's
and
then it's
crazy.
so weird, because then I hit like 45 hours in, like I'm in the plateau area and a bunch of stuff up there, and I'm finding full sets in dungeons. Like full sets. I found 2 full sets sitting on top of each other. One was the Bloodhound Knight.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I got the Bloodhound Knight's sword. That was very...
it's one of the best.
Felt very nice to beat some of those bosses. I beat 3 of those.
He's hard. I like those
4
those
maybe?
dungeon. I like those, what do they call it? Jail. Ever jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
the old
like
spelling
those.
of jail.
Yes.
Gowl.
And... Excuse me. There's not that many interesting weapons. There are weapons to allow you to play differently. I have one of everything. But the interesting, special weapons, I don't have very many of. I have
And it makes you conserve your smithing stones when you could be using them to upgrade that weapon, but you want to be
did
sure.
finally. I was like, no, screw it.
You have
I
to.
did get the item. This was only in my last play session last night. I
That
did.
lets you buy the smithing stones.
Yeah, so I upgraded my first weapon. I am still using my first weapon, which, again, I think is crazy overpowered. I talked to somebody yesterday who has like 100 hours in it. He was, bedridden for the whole week that it came out, so that's all he did. And he's, got something like 100 hours in it, and still uses the katana. He started as a samurai
so
as well.
Silly.
It's insane, dude. Did you get any of the special katanas? There are 2 of them, I believe.
No, because I'm a strength build.
Okay.
So I don't really use they don't scale with strength. I guess you can make them with the Ashes of War, but yeah, I just didn't use katanas. I'm using these big heavy great swords typically.
It's nuts. The unsheath ability is insane.
I mean, you saw the ability that I'm using, the Star Scourge collar, where you like draw everyone into yourself and then slam into the ground.
That is pretty cool.
Kills. It does like 2,500 damage.
Yeah, but you don't get stuff like that when you're
No,
one of
not
those
at
new
all.
players.
No.
They don't cater in that way all the cool fun things to do in Dark Souls.
Okay.
I don't think they
feel
cater very well. And then of course the economy with those level 1 smithing stones
Yeah, it takes
is
a while.
nuts. I had 14 level 3 stones and 27 level 2 stones, only like 10 level 1 stones.
Yeah, you have to like go and find the belts super early to be able to buy
able to buy them. And then so finally when I did find it, I leveled up my katana to like plus 15 or something.
Nice, yeah.
And
I finally have a plus 25, which is the max, I think.
Okay.
I had to use this ancient smithing stone or whatever. It's just my mace.
I just found on the ground, no big deal, a level 9 somber smithing stone.
Amazing. I love it.
Were
you and Caleb?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The circle of cultists that are at the bottom of that dragon tower. Caleb was
I didn't
awesome.
I've only found one ancient dragon somber smithing stone.
Ancient dragon.
It's somber ancient dragon smithing stone.
Goodness
but
gracious.
that's the max. That's what you need for plus 10 on your special weapons, because it only goes up to plus 10 for unique weapons.
Okay.
And I've only found one, and it was in the same place that you fight Melania, Blade of Mikola. Yeah, I hate her so much.
Yeah, you
I hate
have.
her so
I just
much.
laugh at you.
Yeah,
People
I hate
like
her
you.
so much. I just
The hardest
fair.
boss in all of Dark Souls.
seems to be the general consensus.
Yeah.
Just this Dark Souls Sephiroth, essentially. Maybe a little bit of the Kingdom Hearts boss sprinkled in. Which one? Marluxia.
I wouldn't know.
It's like the It's the same hair color and everything. Really long pink hair. Well, she has red hair, but
kind of anime.
it's a super anime. It's
Especially in her second form. With
Yes.
butterfly, like she has giant angel wings that are made of butterflies.
Yeah, made of rotting butterflies.
Yeah.
Well, it's just
It's interesting. And she's basically naked.
that's Dark Souls.
That's anime. It's not so much Dark Souls.
No, I mean the rotting naked woman.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very much Dark Souls.
They definitely do that a lot, which is not a discussion I want to have, but the sort of, the way women are used, they definitely lean on a lot of tropes, which I think are pretty interesting in fantasy. The decrepit witches, the
I love it when you do the Dark Souls
sexy
2 witch
witches.
voice.
Oh, I'm not doing it
I know
here.
you're not, but I love
doing
it. You'll lose all your souls. So great.
And then, of course, the like there's a sensuality, but also a grotesqueness to a lot of the female characters in Dark Souls that is interesting,
Yeah.
to say the least. Also, I'm looking over there on your shelf at that Horizon Special Edition. I hope you hate that game so much that you'll trade me and I'll give you like $30 as well.
I mean, if I really hate it, I will let you have that.
But I might hate it as well. I doubt it though. I'm actually quite excited for
I'm
it.
actually, and this is the cynic in me coming out, I don't think I'm going to like it very much. I really don't. I stopped playing the first game halfway through for a reason. Generic open world with super unique fun combat, but
yeah, so I didn't
40
play
hours of that.
I didn't play the first one. I'm going to get a story synopsis because, I was like, okay, cool, another open world. Yeah, robot dinosaurs are cool, but I don't want to play an open world
Literally
game.
the reason I bought it was just because robot dinosaurs.
Yeah, but I am coming around to, I think open world games are getting better. They've been stagnant for a long time, and we are not fully out of that yet. But there's definitely enough life being breathed into the genre recently to get me a little more interested. So I'm pretty interested in this. And I know you didn't watch any reviews on it, did you?
On what?
Horizon?
No.
Okay. Just so you can not have the worst time of your life, turn on one of the accessibility options that automatically collects the resources when you kill.
That's an option?
Yeah.
Oh,
Otherwise,
I'm in.
you have to go pick up
I'm
everything.
in.
Everything you have to pick up.
I'm in. No questions. Like, that should be the default option.
Yeah.
Don't waste my time. I'm sick of hitting the triangle button. Like, I'm done.
Yeah. That's probably going to be very popular after Last of Us 2. It's probably going to be in most games.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's my biggest complaint. I don't think they lean into. I think they forget about that aspect of Dark Souls, which is a ton of fun for me. Playing through any other Dark Souls, you're getting weapons and armor all the freaking time.
All the time.
And then you choose to not put it on just because you look so cool.
Yep.
Even in your basic armor. Being a not a paladin, but whoever uses the spear, whatever class uses the spear in Dark Souls 3, I have that on, the silver armor with the little cape on the shoulder.
And of course,
for most of the game.
Nothing is cooler than the Dark Souls 2 From armor.
Oh, it's some. I have not got it yet, but the Wolf Man armor.
Oh, I got that one
in Elden Ring might top it. I have not seen it.
Doesn't top it for me, but
the
it's
Farum
very
armor
good.
is quite possibly the best armor that's ever been designed.
It's incredible.
Cool. And if you're gonna play Skyrim anytime soon on PC, that is, mod it, get the Farum armor, and put that on your girl Lydia, because it's awesome. And it's really good. And then, she's just going to be by your side, as Lydia is always, in some of the coolest armor in all the video games. And that's pretty much the only complaint I have for people like me, because, even though I've played all the Dark Souls games, I would still position myself with a lot of the newer players that are being brought into this game. I forget her name suddenly, but from Girlfriend Reviews.
Girlfriend. Her name is Girlfriend.
No, she has a name. She has a name, and I'm drawing a blank right now. But I would align myself more with her than with you or other hardcore fans,
Sure.
Nick.
And that begs the question for who is this game for?
And I think it's so much more for people like me than it is for you.
And I still think it is for people like me, but I think you're right. I think it's for a wider audience, and not in a bad way, not in a pandering way. It's still well designed. It's still...
Oh, I didn't finish that thought.
Go ahead.
Just like,
go ahead.
piggybacking off of that thought, just in the same way that Deathloop was last year.
Yeah, like we want the stuff that made Prey, difficult to access and grapple with for a lot of players. We wanted more of that, and they went the other way. They went more towards the stuff that in their games that would have led to a more general appreciation. The clean gunplay, how you don't really need to be that innovative or creative. You can just kind of go through the loadout system. Things that made us not even want to do an episode on the game.
Yeah.
And
they have catered to
sure.
you. And I don't mean with the other Dark Souls games. Most people who play and really engage with Elden Ring are probably going to be able to pretty comfortably go back and play Dark Souls 2 and 3. One, if they have more sensibilities akin to us that want to explore old games. But 2 and 3 are still immediately playable.
Yeah.
1 has some very rough edges.
Yeah, very rough.
And very tight corridors.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate. But, people can easily go back and play those 2 games and feel right at home. But their last game was just for you.
Yes.
Sekiro was an absolute love letter. I don't think that you can expect that all the time.
I don't ever expect it again, actually.
Yeah.
I don't. And I almost don't want it again.
You shouldn't.
It's
Sequels are so overdone.
Pure. No, I mean that style, not a Sekiro sequel. I mean a game like that, that is for me.
Well, even just doing the thing again.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily mean a sequel. I mean that, what you would want.
Yeah, and I just
embrace it,
I
love it.
Sekiro so much.
It won't be done again.
So
you're right.
Let me just kind of... I should have started with this. I have a bias, and I'm very, very aware of it. And it's that I, most of the time, prefer the linear, paced, crafted experience. A lot of times I do. If it's not that, it has to be really innovative. Like Outer Wilds. Crazy innovative. Metal Gear Solid 5. So systemic and engaging.
Mm-hmm.
Breath of the Wild. No explanation needed.
It had the... well, I like offering explanations. It did have some of that systemic gameplay, but it was so emotionally engaging in ways that most games are not. And I don't mean...
the discovery.
I don't mean emotionally like Last of Us. There's just something...
about walking
so
through
inherent
a field while that little piano theme plays.
Oh my god, dude!
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
It's
there's
so
nothing
perfect.
like it. And it truly is where Elden Ring uses the same signposting. It's not going for the same sense of discovery, and that's what made Breath of the Wild like that for me. So unless it's those crazy once in a lifetime masterpiece kind of games, typically I prefer the paced, metered out, like really finely tuned linear experiences. I really like those games. I get a lot out of it. Like, sure, the levels don't have to be linear, but I mean, you know what I'm talking about, the way the game is doled out to the player. I tend to prefer those games, and that bias definitely comes into how I feel about Elden Ring. Elden Ring is not a game I'm probably going to go back to anytime soon. Sekiro and Dark Souls 2, I replay consistently.
And Bloodborne.
Yeah, I play Bloodborne so much. I love that game. But yeah, those games, I don't know why I don't play 3 more. I think because when I start 3, I finish 3. Like, I'm fine not finishing Dark Souls 2. I'm fine not finishing Bloodborne. I feel like when I play 3, I finish it. Like, it's that mountain, and you start climbing. You're like, no, I'm gonna get the peak. I'm gonna kill Slave Nightingale again. Like, you just it gets into you. It's a little bit harder for me to go back to, but yeah, as something people might be interested in, as a FromSoft fan, I wrote here, is the game a masterpiece, and is it FromSoft's masterpiece? As in, like, what the word literally means, not like how we use it colloquially, like the masterpiece of the artist. This is their masterpiece, the piece that they have made. This is the master of that. Like, it is the literal use of that word. Is it a masterpiece? A masterpiece, the way we use it today? I'd say yes. Absolutely. I totally get it. It does everything right, and it's doing something for a lot of players that gets me very excited to lean over to them and whisper in their ear, but have you played Bloodborne yet? You know, like those things. And
maybe when it's on PC, you
know,
can say that.
You know, and talking like that, it gets me very excited, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for this game. But if you were to ask me, is it FromSoft's masterpiece? I would not only say no, I would say very no. I could hear an argument for Dark Souls 1, though it's my second least favorite in the series. I'm sorry. I can hear an argument for Dark Souls 1.
It's Sekiro, Bloodborne 3, 2, 1, and
Demon Souls.
Demon Souls, right?
Yeah, it's Sekiro, Bloodborne 3, 2, 1, Demon Souls. Yeah, that's exactly it. 2, some days, like in some ways, beats 3 for me. It's the consistency of 3 that blows 2 out of the water.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the consistent as a game, it's just
no.
So superior.
I also did not. When I played 2, I played it on launch, so this was pre Scholar of the First Sin,
which makes it. I would recommend you not play Scholar for your first time through. I would recommend it.
I wish you could play the original again.
Yeah, you have to play it on PS3 or there's a PC version of just Dark Souls 2.
Is there any more?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know there was.
That's what I had
a few years ago.
But can you buy it? Like, has it replaced it has Scholar of the First Sin?
I know that like they do weird
store?
things like BioShock Original and Remastered are both available on Steam. I don't see why, unless FromSoft explicitly pulled it. But what it is kind of a remix. It truly is a remix game, and it makes it harder.
Why? Why is Scholar of the First Sin?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I'm glad it exists. I wouldn't have paid full price for it back when it came out.
Yeah.
And it sucks that that's what they release in the trilogy and stuff.
Yeah, I kind of wish the original was there, but it was not on PC. I mean, PS4, right?
Scholar of the First Sin is on PS4. Original's not on PS4.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
If I didn't say that. That's what I meant.
No, I just wanted to clarify.
So it was on PS3 and PC.
Yep. And it was an Xbox too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's how you can play it. There you go.
Oh, interesting. Might pick that up. Also, Assassin's Creed 1 has updates.
Ooh, maybe a triple.
Xbox.
Ooh, maybe a triple.
Gotta get a freaking Xbox.
But I would say I would entertain an argument for Dark Souls 1 as their masterpiece, and a weaker but understandable argument for Dark Souls 3. That's going to come from people like me who the bosses are life for Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 3 has the most consistent best bosses. But you really, really can't beat Sekiro and Bloodborne. Sekiro for the people like me, and Bloodborne for the people who are more purists in terms of their Souls fandom. Both are just 2 games of the decade that are just both, I think, are FromSoft's masterpiece in 2 very different ways. And I don't think, because of kind of the issues that I had with Elden Ring and what kind of game it is, I don't think it can live up to what was accomplished in those 2 games. And that's for me. I know Nick, when he listens to this, is probably going to claw his eyes out. I wish he were here. He's like, no, I don't want to talk about it if I haven't finished it. I was like, Nick, you got to be
That's so silly to me.
So Nick is a hardcore. He got me into Dark Souls. He is a hardcore Souls fan, and this is his favorite Souls game.
What?
So that perspective is there.
Interesting.
That perspective exists, and I want to hear it because I don't see it. The way he talks, let me do my best. We've had hours of conversation about this game. For him, it is the freedom of the game. And he finds more ways to express his play styles and change them up and really engage with the world itself via these Dark Souls mechanics that he knows like the back of his hand. And he's found this freedom in them, which makes me go, I get it. Your language, the way you're talking about this game, I understand why you feel that way. I just don't relate because of the what I look for in a game like this, right? Because of what I'm looking for in a game like this. So that perspective exists, and I wish you were here to really flesh it out a little bit more. He is the rallying defender. Well, not that this game needs defense. Like, it's getting 10 out of 10s everywhere. Yeah. All of his friends have not liked it very much, though. And so when I told him, "You're not alone," he's like, "I don't know, man. Like nobody seems to like this game. I think it's a masterpiece." And I said, "Let me just send you a few links." And so I just sent him some reviews, and he's like, "Oh, everyone loves this game."
Yes.
Like, it's like he's not alone, and even Souls fans are saying this is the best, like obviously the best, game in the series. And while I disagree, I understand where they're coming from. That freedom and the joy of getting lost in something a lot of people love for the lore anyway already, and seeing that lore put together more cohesively. Maybe not as intricately, but as a more cohesive whole, a world unto itself.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Even though I would not put it as my favorite, I don't know which one I would honestly say is my favorite. This would be the one I could most easily go back and play.
This is the one I'd most easily recommend to most people.
Oh, of course.
Easy.
This and probably Dark Souls 2, right?
Yeah, I'd say Dark Souls 2. I would say Bloodborne if it was not PS4 exclusive.
Dude, it's so hard to get started, though.
It's tough, but there's something... The speed of it and the way it For me, Bloodborne teaches you how to play Souls. How to get the most out of Souls.
Mm-hmm.
Parrying, dodging into enemy attacks, being super aggressive. The two main mechanics. I don't even have to say it. Like the main mechanic of if you get hit in Bloodborne, the rally mechanic where if you hit someone back, you can get some of your health back.
Is that in this game?
No.
Oh.
It's just Bloodborne.
Okay, I was like, what?
Only Bloodborne. The rally mechanic. And so it encourages you to be aggressive. And then you dodge much faster. You move much faster. The dodge windows are more generous. And then, dude, the cherry on top, there are no useful shields in Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
None. The first shield you get just says shields engender passivity. It just says it on the item description. It's intentionally useless. It wants you to play a specific way, which the other games don't funnel you into.
Yeah. And
with the trick weapons, I want trick weapons back so bad. With the trick weapons, though, there's still a lot of variety and in terms of play style, but teaches you how to play, man, and that's really key. I remember the first time I played Dark Souls, I just hid behind a shield the whole time. I was bored, just waiting for enemies to stop hitting so I could hit them back and then go back behind my shield.
Yeah,
this game does shields a lot better though. This game does shields much better. They're more active. You're gonna try to, if someone hits your shield, get that
the quick counter.
Or
not so quick counter. Sometimes they're very slow.
Yeah, those heavy weapons, man.
Yeah.
This is definitely a game for fast weapons. Don't do what I did. Don't level into heavy weapons. Don't do it. It's so much harder.
Just play with the katana. That unsheath ability. I'm telling you, still using it. Again, talked with someone that has beaten the game 100 and whatever hours into it. Still using the base katana and one of the two special katanas you can find.
It's incredible.
It's really insane.
Do you have any final thoughts?
Not really. Not that we've already said. I am very happy so many people like this game, and I do love this game. It has some problems in there for players like me, but also plenty of things that are way more inviting for players like me. But I'm not going to be able to beat any of these games. So I look at it a little differently. Even though I could most easily go back and play this game, I really do think there's something so awesome about Dark Souls 3. And then so many of the areas in Dark Souls 2 are nearly unforgettable. I didn't get a ton of that here. Even Stormvale Castle,
which I love.
It was very good for this game. It would be much lower on the rung if you put it into most of the other games.
That's fair. I can understand.
So it's good here.
I disagree, but I can understand it.
And final thought for me, Caelid is so cool.
Caelid's
we didn't talk about
awesome.
many of the individual areas, which alas we do not have much time for.
Touch on a couple. Let's just do it. I'll mention Liurnia really stood out to me.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I have to pee so bad. I had to pee before the podcast. If we're gonna have another conversation, I gotta go right now. I don't know why I didn't go before the podcast. What time is this?
3:50.
Write that down. No, that. Keep note of that.
Yeah. hey, we're halfway through the cast, and I wish you were here, man. Because we have the perspective of someone who hasn't finished a Souls game, you know. We have the perspective of someone who has some pretty major issues with the game despite loving it. I tried my best to reiterate what you had to say about it, but you would have said it so much better on, like, why it's the best Souls game.
Sorry about it. Yeah, I totally would. I'll just hack into the YouTube channel.
The YouTubes.
And just put a voiceover over the entire episode and tell you why you're all wrong.
I'm not wrong. They're valid criticisms. I gave them from the perspective of what I look for in these games.
Yeah, which is that'll be totally fine.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's definitely no, I've seen some of the same bosses like 6 or 7 times, and I just getting tired of it.
Have you beaten
Mikola or Melania? No, she can suck my ass. I've literally been fighting her for 4 hours. Like, I've just throughout the past couple days. I can't beat her. She can kill you in one hit with many attacks. And someone got 99 vigor and went to her, still getting one hit killed. Like, she's meant to be that way.
halfway done with the cast?
No, we're not really halfway done. We're actually gonna have one more conversation. We're probably about 10 minutes out.
Holy shit. Fried chicken
No.
in there, bro.
No. All right, we're gonna finish up. Okay, bye.
Hi, bud.
I still don't know why. Oh, did he get in here? Has he been in here?
No.
Oh, okay.
Come here.
He'll be good.
Yeah. That's why I didn't put him out. We just can talk for 5 more minutes. You wrote this down somewhere?
Yeah. Well, I didn't write it down, but I have it in my head. So.
Okay. Well, let me write it down.
129.59.
Sorry, I didn't
I've
write
had to do it
anything.
before. It's fine.
You said 129?
129.59.
No, I mean, I did.
I get what you mean now.
This is-
Yeah.
There's nothing
Useless.
for you.
That's fine.
Peeing.
All right, clap it out, and then we won't take too long here. Let's finish it up.
What were you just talking about? Which
Uh,
area?
area. I'm gonna talk about Liurnia.
Liurnia.
Yeah, Liurnia is just it. When you enter it, there's just this massive sunken ruins.
Liurnia is pretty significantly my favorite area that I explored. You explored way more than I did.
Yeah, and honestly, those first 3 areas are superior to any of the later areas. You know, the capital city is great for its design and intricacy, but just riding through these lakes, finding these massive lobsters shooting mud globs at you, and you know,
And then leading from one of the mountaintops, leading a spirit bear, which I hate so much,
yeah,
down to kill one of the lobsters.
That's
and just
incredible.
Encircling them and having them fight each other.
That's
Which they're not
fantastic.
fighting each other. They're trying to fight you, but, you know, friendly fire is definitely on.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's just so interesting that you can see all of it from one of the mountaintops. And which I think in most games that would be pretty boring. They wouldn't do much with that. But it's such an interesting place to be. The colors are not really used anywhere else, which is something that most of the areas do very
yes,
well.
they have a theme.
Someone posted the full world map, which the map is gorgeous, by the way. A classic, you know, hand-drawn fantasy map.
Oh yeah.
Someone posted a picture of the full map and mentioned that it looks like a Pokemon region. It just
incredible.
very explicitly segmented areas.
Like the Bionicle map.
Yeah.
Like, this is Takoro. This is Pokoro. Yes,
Yeah,
I know
something
all
like
the
that.
Koro names from Bionicle. Okay?
I don't.
I still know the majority of every Bionicle's name.
Wow.
That's some deep lore. I read all the books as a kid. Those are good. Those are good.
Yes.
I'm sure I'd hate them if I read them again. But they are, as a kid in 3rd grade, that was the whole world to me.
It was the whole world. They were so cool. Did you ever watch
And they haven't done anything like
Billions
them since, with like
video
that
on
level
Bionicles?
of sci-fi fantasy world building.
Yeah, because they were sued when they did it before.
Oh, shame.
Because it's
Of course, I've watched William's video. It's like his most popular video. Isn't
oh
it?
really?
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were very insensitive about the sort of religious and cultural themes they took from
Oh yeah.
Pacific Islanders.
Oh yeah.
They is not
Pretty on the
great.
nose.
Not great.
Oh,
but
the
I did
world's
love
so
Bionicles
cool.
so much. But yeah, there's plenty of really awesome areas here. The first area is great to be in. What is that called again? In Elden Ring.
Oh, I just blanked. Starts with
Starts
an
with
L.
an L,
Laynell.
yeah. Something like that. Yeah. That is it has a great first impression. I do think
No, is it not? It's not Laynell.
it's Oh, well.
Ligurnia.
I don't know.
Ligurnia?
It's all right. I think I think it doesn't. It's big. You're gonna be there for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's not
And you have to like
huge.
sneak behind a dragon to find the key to the academy. Like it's just so cool. It's such a cool.
Well,
area.
that's in Liurnia.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Liurnia.
But
Okay.
the first area is pretty large. Not the largest area, but you're going to spend probably the most time there, at least in those beginning areas before you get to the capital. And I do think they should have shaken that up a bit. It's a lot of the same trees, same mountains. I say same mountains. Of course, they're all different, but until you get to the up by Stormvale, up there on the cliff where it does get a little stormy, it's all the same. So that could have been shaken up a little, but incredibly great first impression there. I didn't make it to Caelid until last night, which is probably my second favorite area.
That's
It's
probably my
so
favorite area.
original.
I love it. And the decrepit castles being, being staffed by the last bastion of resistance against the rot. The creepy insect rot worshippers leading their putrescent dogs down the main road. These carrion beasts.
Oh, the birds are incredible.
And they're creepy and huge, and their movements are gross. It's my favorite area by far.
It's
And
a very
when you
close
fight
second.
Radon, who's not a very good boss in my opinion, but when you fight him, it's the whole expanse of this dune.
Yeah, that whole desert area.
That whole
on the map.
desert that just, it has no, what's the right word? It's as if something was there. You can see it coming off the peaks, right, of the mountain, the beginnings of a structure, but as if his all-consuming warpath has ravaged everything. He's consumed everything but himself and his sickly Rocinante horse.
Yes, it's a great area.
It's my favorite.
I did not fight Radon. I just explored as much
for
of the
you.
area as I could.
He's basically a raid boss. You summon a bunch of allies to kind of help, and he turns around and fights them, and you just kind of ride behind him on your horse and smack his
Which I
booty.
think a lot lot of the bosses are. I think they're
Well, this
facilitating
one's,
the multiplayer way more.
intentionally, you can summon 6 or 7 NPCs.
Oh, interesting.
And they all run towards him and fight. He's huge, and he does insane damage, and his sword swipes cover you have to be on your horse basically. It covers so much.
Can you fight him not on your horse?
Of course you can. You can. In fact, if you summon a player, you can't have your horse.
Oh yeah.
So you have to fight him without it, and it's pretty rough from what I understand. But you
It
can.
seems like it'd be
there
crazy.
are people who beat him at level 50 with with only sword. You stupid dumb people that I love so much.
The kind of people that final boss is for.
Yeah. I love from the girl or the boyfriend reviews, I guess,
Yeah.
episode where he's like, the person's like, what do you think you're better than me? And the text just says person using bell summons. And then it's just a guy whose only inventory item is the stick. And it says, yes, I am better than you. It's incredible.
Correct. It's a very close second to Liurnia, but there's just something so interesting about the the sunken ruins that have now, like, the lake has been dried up, so they're no longer sunken ruins. They're just ruins again.
Yeah.
And then the forest that has grown up there on the dried up lake. It's such an interesting place.
so cool.
Wildly interesting colors. And
Yeah, the world design here is unprecedented.
It's great.
It's really,
really
so
great.
good. Like you said, it's the first time we've truly had, like, The Witcher's great, but it's not a fantasy map. It's a medieval map.
Yeah.
You know, it's a
definitely.
medieval map. This is like raw. I am in a modern fantasy map. You know, these crazy things, all the things inspired by Tolkien.
Caelid looks like, when you get a vista that is just the pink and blue sky with the red and white grayish ground,
rot,
and then a tree with one of those crow things there, it really does sort of, what's his name, that did Beetlejuice,
Tim Burton.
There's just something so Tim Burton about
That's really interesting.
some
comparison.
vistas in Caelid.
Yeah.
I don't mean Caelid as a whole, but specifically with those birds, I was getting a lot of Tim Burton vibes.
Yeah, I love that area so much. So much.
I'm happy that it was my last section. I went there to grind with those little guys you get 1,000 from.
Yeah, that's the same people that I used. They're so good.
Yeah, there's another place also in that same area. It's been patched out now as of very recently. There's a boulder that
Maybe they
summons
could patch
behind
the
you.
Arcana scaling. That'd be great because I want to use that great sword.
Oh. There is a boulder that summons behind you and then it, kills you pretty much immediately. But it's an enemy. If you dodge it, when it drops off of the cliff, you get 2,000. And it's like 5 steps away from the bonfire. So you just do that 2,000 every time.
That's incredible.
They have patched that out.
That makes sense.
So that's what I went there for. But then noticed that you can kill those enemies, which are pretty tough. Like if you get caught with one of those,
Yeah, the bleed damage.
yeah, it's insane. But you can ride around on your horse, and then what I like to do is
Drag the sword.
no, I jump off. When I encounter one, I jump off and come down with a strong attack, which does like a fraction of or takes a fraction of the endurance or your stamina, I mean, but does a strong attack, and then I can just lead in with a bunch of weak attacks and kill it pretty immediately. But getting a pack of 3 of those things, they can kill you pretty easy. But I picked up like 4 or 5 levels pretty easily, and I was going to immediately go back to the academy in Liurnia, which is what I was doing. I wanted to beat the second boss and finally go into the capital. But Caelid was just so interesting. I thought that was a good place to finish my playtime with.
Sure.
Since I'm not going to be able to, go much further. Unless I play it on the side, but Pokemon for me. On the side, or, monster catchers and whatnot. I did not mention, final thought, something that I did not like at all with the world design here. I thought this was a pretty big negative, and they could have found other ways to do this. They rely so heavily on sheer cliffs that you have to ride so far around to get around. And you've got those like air geysers that you can jump on with your horse. Those are very few and far between. And then there are the areas of some cliffs that have like the headstones jutting out of it, which I thought was pretty cool. But those are also pretty few and far between. But I found myself so often, sure, I could fast travel to another place, which I did often enough, but I would get stuck on a part of the map because the cliff just goes on for miles and there's no way to get up. I thought they relied on that way too much to segment some of the areas, and probably could have done better at mitigating some of that. It's just cliff after cliff after cliff.
Sure. Yeah, there's just a couple little things like that sour it a bit for me, but it really is fantastic.
Yeah,
and I would recommend it to anyone listening
very,
who's
very
been
good
on
game.
the edge about it. I would recommend it to you wholeheartedly.
So many new first players with this game, I bet.
And that's a good thing, especially because they're going to go back and play some of my all-time faves.
Hopefully, I told my coworker that this was his first Dark Souls. He put 100, hundred so
Wow.
hours into it. Absolutely loves it. I told him he should go play 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And said 1 was pretty rough around the edges. Everything we've already said about them.
Yeah.
But 2 or 3.
Sekiro 2 is just one to have ready. Not right after this game, but it's...
I feel like players should just discover that. After they play a couple Dark Souls games, like jumping right into
I agree.
Sekiro from this would be so difficult. Like when you feel like you're ready for it.
And it's great because
it'll find you.
Unteaches you. It it kind of strips you of what you learned in Dark Souls with that fourth boss, or when you fight is it Genichiro?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's Genichiro. When you fight him,
which one is that?
he's just the swordsman that you fight on top of the castle.
Oh.
He's basically there to teach you to stop playing Dark Souls. You're playing Sekiro now.
Who's the boss on the horse?
His name is Gobu Masataka Oniwa. And as he lives, you shall not pass this gate. He's incredible.
Yes, he is.
Just the shout. And oh man, I wish I could speak Japanese. The Japanese shout is equally awesome.
Yeah.
But the English voice actor is just giving it bellowing from the depths of his soul.
We'll have to watch it again after this.
Yeah, it's so good.
I forget, is there any multiplayer in Sekiro?
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope. No multiplayer.
I thought
Another
single player
reason.
games were dead.
Yeah, definitely not. It's good stuff.
Well, go play this game, guys. It's very good. If you've been on the fence about Dark Souls in general because it's very hard, this game's very hard. But there's so
Lots
much
of
here for you to
allowances.
mitigate that. It is for you. It is also for super fans of Dark Souls, but I think very intentionally for people like you who may have been putting it off because it's a little off-putting, the series as a whole.
Is.
This one is very inviting, so I would encourage you to go play it. It's really something great. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say.
Same
about
here.
it.
Yeah, good talk. I'm looking forward to our next game, which I won't be able to start till Wednesday.
Wednesday, bro. You should just play that on easy and get straight through it.
No, I'll play it on medium. If I don't quite finish it, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I know it's a big story game, but I'll look up the ends.
And you can recap and pick your own choices in the second game.
Yeah, I mean, I won't do that. If I'm close enough, I'll just finish it out. But because what? It's a 20-hour game, 25.
30.
30.
We'll see.
Look it up real quick while I'm wrapping up, I guess.
Yeah.
But we are going to jump into Mass Effect, the Mass Effect series. I'm very excited. I'm waiting till Wednesday because I know Amanda's going to love it. She's going to want to play it.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So
she's
she's
going-
out of town right now.
So I'll use this time to try to, tidy up a couple final things in Elden Ring here. And what does it say?
bro, what?
17 hours.
17.
Hey, now we're talking.
25 for the other two.
Man, 17. Oh, I'll be able to
17.
do that. No problem.
That's
I'll knock
without
that
any extra content. 28 for extra.
Yeah, so I'll probably
Okay,
spend 20.
and I'm gonna play it on easy. So I have played this before, and you'll hear us do a little
And I played the
recap.
beginning of it before.
I did finish it. I think it's been 8 years now. I played it in our first year of marriage. I remember specifically in that little apartment life. There's something about it. Anyway, it's been about 8 years.
I wouldn't know.
For me. I know. I do remember it quite fondly, but I only played the first one and I just got busy with other things. Didn't play the second one. So I'm going to play this on easy since I already have a hard enough time finishing games as it is. I'm going to rush through it, do as much of the side content that I remember being particularly interesting. There are at least 2 things that I want to redo that are long side quests that were very interesting, and I want to see what happens later on. So I'm going to play it on easy to rush those things.
Yeah.
And it's got some jank.
I'm ready.
It's old.
I'm ready. Dude, we played Metal Gear Solid 1. We're going to be fine.
Okay, but there's also something about... Because you can accept that it's an old game. A very old game. 20-something years old at this point. Mass Effect, however, is a modern game with jank, which is almost harder to swallow in some ways because you don't have as much expectation, and you don't. I don't give them as much affordances as I do old games. But anyway,
That's it for me, man.
that's it for us. Do check out our Patreon page. $2 tier will get you into our budding community on Discord, and also help us sort of keep the lights on around here. Maybe eventually get an editor again so we can have that live video. But come tell us your history with Dark Souls, and even the two series we're going through now, being Mass Effect and Metal Gear Solid. Come find some matches if you want to get some players in on Elden Ring or the new expansion. Nick and I will be playing on Monday the new expansion for
Risk of Rain.
Risk of Rain. Yeah, just come join us. Come talk about games. Come, share what you love with who you love, which is just people. We just love people, Anyway, we'll see you next time.